You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
Folks, welcome to the Capitalist Corner, coming to you live from Paris over here. I'm Mark Pellegrino, the host of the Capitalist Corner, as well as the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair of the American Capitalist Party, Michael Liebowitz, who is also the host of so many shows. And now that I'm on vacation, sort of running pretty much every show that we're partners on by himself. And now we are without our producer. So how these two boomer adjacent cats are going to get through this evening is going to be a very interesting phenomenon, especially, Michael, since I'm 8,000 miles away from you, completely clueless technologically, and you're over there in America, technologically helpless yourself. How are we going to get through this?
With some difficulty, but maybe we'll get by with a little help from our friends.
Yeah, let's hope so, guys. So, Michael, you sent me something.
Wait a second, dude. Have you really been gone that long?
Look, I've been gone since April 7th.
Right. So you got to say, Michael, what do you have going on? And I would say, well, on The Rational Egoist right now, I've got 2 episodes out, one with Jim Valiant discussing the virtue of honesty, and the other is a debate I had with Professor Michael Humer on the objectivist ethics. Also, today at 2:30, although I'll be alone, I will be doing Everyday Ethics, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Unfortunately, I cannot do Crime, Corrections, and Culture because of the aforementioned absence of our Persephone. But nonetheless, my podcast is good. The Everyday Ethics is fantastic. I don't know when Mark is going to be returning to do Self-Made Soul, but never fear, because Persephone and I now have a new show that's out on the weekends. That is basically, it's this show, but the weekend edition where we get into more philosophy stuff. And this week, I am going to delve into the differences between teleological and deontological ethics. I know, don't be careful not to get too excited, but that's what I will be. She's not sick. No, she's busy. I will be discussing those things. Please remember, and this is a great reminder, that we love our super chats and super stickers at this place. Robert Nacer with the $2 says, I get by with a little help from my friends. Yes, Robert. I believe that was Jim Croce originally, but then maybe what's his face?
Ringo Starr. What are you talking about?
What do you mean? The Beatles redid it, I think. Who did it first?
No, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Robert, help me with this. I thought the Beatles predated Jim Croce, but what do I know?
Maybe you're right. I wasn't alive back then. You guys are much older than me, so that makes sense.
We were alive for that. Michael,
Jenna Kleem, $2 more.
Thank you, Jenna. When I'm over here in Europe, I go on kind of a news blackout. So oftentimes the stuff you send me shocks me. All right. Now, I don't know why I'm shocked after over a year of Trump in the White House and the utter and complete chaos that this man has visited upon not only the United States, but the rest of the world. I don't know why I'm shocked, Michael, when you send me something that an indictment has gone down for Mr. James Comey. Trump has been this guy's enemy for quite some time and has foreshadowed that he was going to persecute this guy through the Department of Justice. But nonetheless, Michael, I was shocked to see this indictment come down. I want to read this part of this first count, Michael, in case people don't realize exactly what Mr. Comey is being indicted for. It's for this, folks. On or about May 15th, 2025, in the Eastern District of North Carolina, the defendant, James Brian Comey Jr., did knowingly and willfully make a threat to take the life of and to inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States, in that he publicly posted a photograph on the internet social media site Instagram, which depicted seashells arranged in a pattern making out 8647, otherwise 8647, which a reasonable recipient who is familiar with the circumstances would interpret as a serious expression of intent to harm the President of the United States. Michael, I gotta say something.
It was Joe Cocker that redid it, anyways. But go ahead.
Thank you very much.
I
Of course he
confused
did.
it too.
It's a beautiful redo. Anybody who doesn't know the Joe Cocker version should listen to it. It's even better than the original, to be honest with you. But Michael, I was a bouncer at clubs for many years, and
Right.
we would often get the tip off from a bar back, or our boss would say, "86, that son of a bitch, he's drunk," and so we'd have to summarily escort a person out of the club who was being rambunctious or drunk. I had no idea that my boss or a barback or a bartender or a waitress who was being harassed was telling me I had to kill the guy. I thought 86 just meant get rid of him. Thank you, Jeanette, for a super sticker. Michael, can you correct me here? Because apparently the Trump administration, the Department of Justice, sees this as any reasonable person interpreting this as an assassination on the president of the United States. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous. So, did you read from the actual relevant statutes? Because we have them.
I did. Put some of those up and read from them, Michael, because they.
I can't. I don't know how to put them up. So you know
Well,
what?
you can just read flat out.
Well, I'm going to, but I got to find it. So talk to the people. Give them you're an actor. You know what to do.
Well, what I love is there's a very good constitutional lawyer, Mr. Turley, who oftentimes shows up on Fox News to give commentary on certain legal cases that are pending. And since he's a Fox News contributor, most people look at him as on the conservative side. Even he, Michael, writing in an article about this case, more or less said it has absolutely no standing at all, that this qualifies as political speech. It doesn't qualify as an actual threat against the president of the United States, which, Michael, I consider myself a reasonable person. I didn't read it that way when I looked at it myself. And given Comey's response on social media, which was
there's a problem with your mic, dude, and the people are complaining about it. So fix that up, get that right, and I'll read this.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first is it's Turley is a decent man from Jim Valiant. So we've got from Title 18, Section 871A. This is the first relevant statute. Whoever knowingly and willfully deposits for conveyance in the mail or for a delivery from any post office or by any letter carrier, any letter, paper, writing, print, missive, or document containing any threat to take the life of or to inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States, the President-elect, the Vice President, or other officer next in the order of succession to the office of President of the United States, or the Vice President-elect, or knowingly and willfully otherwise makes any such threat against the President, President-elect, Vice President, or other officer next in the order of succession to the office of President or Vice President-elect shall be fined not more than $1,000 or in prison not more than 5 years, or both. So that's the first statute that they're charged under. And then there's this one. Let me get it. It's Title 18. I believe it's 1875. I just have to blow it up so that I can see it. Yes, it is. Whoever transmits in interstate or foreign commerce any communication containing any demand or request for a ransom or reward for the release of any kidnapped person shall be fined. Whoever with intent to extort from any person, firm, or association or corporation or money. Okay, I think I've read the wrong one. So let me go a little bit forward here. Okay, whoever knowingly deposits in any post office or authorized depository for mail matter, this is 876, or knowingly causes to be delivered by the Postal Service according to the direction thereon any communication with or without a name or designating marks subscribed thereto, addressed to any other person and containing any demand or request for ransom or reward for the release of any kidnapped persons. It seems I've butchered that. So let me... So Ian wants to know if we need the exact legal wording. Well, Ian, the problem is I like to be exact. I don't want somebody, yes, it was Joe Cocker. I don't want somebody coming on and then saying, well, that's not the exact thing. So I'm going to go to the actual indictment and we're going to find it. Mark, have you been able to fix your...
Look, I looked at my mic settings. Everything appears to be fine. Apparently, Akira said my sound was going in and out when he wrote it, but I think everything's fine now. Hopefully that's...
Okay.
I am on the dark continent, however. This is Europe, so anything's possible.
All right. Okay, well now the whole thing is whacked out. So I'm all screwed up. Can't find anything. We're dying here without Persephone. I hope everybody understands and appreciates what she brings to the show because it is quite a bit.
Yeah, but Michael, I think it's fair to say from what you read from the statutes itself, it's not difficult for even somebody who's not a legal scholar or even a lawyer to see how far a stretch this is to try to make this indictment stick, and what a huge job the prosecutors have. I think the prosecutors never should have brought this case before a grand jury, to be honest with you. I think that shows malpractice, and that Mr. James Valiant can tell us if that's the case. It's certainly a lack of good faith on the part of the prosecutors to weaponize the system against somebody with such a specious cause.
Here's the bottom line. He didn't threaten President Trump's life. That's the important thing. He has not threatened anybody's life. 8647 is not a threat. Even if it was meant in some way in a derogatory fashion, it is not a call to kill the guy. There was this other case where somebody had said, if they give me a rifle, I hope I can use it on President Johnson or basically that's what he said. That guy, the court said, no, that's allowed. That's free speech. We are supposed to be a country of freedom of speech. And, all the folks who said Donald Trump's going to be a big protector of freedom of speech, bullshit. He's not. This is ridiculous. I think Jim is correct. This will be thrown out.
He's also said something.
And I hope it is.
He's also said something I think is true as well, unfortunately for Comey. Comey helped make today's corrupt Department of Justice, but this is a petard of his own upon which he ought not to be hoisted. I agree with you. I love the Hamlet reference there, by the way, Mr. Valiant. It's right. He did help to create this Justice Department, unfortunately. But, free speech means just that. Unpopular opinions, even words that it could be taken a couple of different ways should be allowed, Michael. It should be allowed. The government doesn't have any room to arrest someone or indict them. And where do you think this is going to go? We should have James Valiant on to talk about this. Where does this go for Mr. Comey? Are they going to arrest him? Are they going to detain him for a time? Will there be a threat to seize any of his assets? Will this in any way inconvenience him or?
Well, he's being charged with a crime, and the grand jury didn't indict him. He's going to be arrested, and he's going to have to take this to court. Ian Gilmore says he doesn't care about the free speech component. I do. I don't know how Ian, I got to say, buddy, I don't know how you don't care about the freedom of speech parts. The corruption of the DOJ is directly connected to the violation of freedom of speech. I don't know how you can even separate the two. Ultimately, you're talking about indicting somebody for something that they allegedly said. Now, Comey, of course, says that he didn't even write it. I mean, he didn't form the shells that way. But even if he did, I wouldn't care. Jim Valiant in all caps. It's all about free speech. Ikea Felix is the most important aspect of this.
Absolutely.
I like numbers. I believe this is Scott Schiff. He says, I read he lied to those asking him about it, that it was a perjury trap. Yeah, but he's not charged with perjury. So I don't know. You can try to defend Trump in any way you want. Whatever. It's par for the course. But
James Valiant says he'll likely stay out of custody, and that's probably true. But Michael, this president and this Department of Justice, this president is so vindictive and small, and this Department of Justice is so weaponized. I don't have faith that even that will happen. I get the sense that they will try to make his life as miserable as possible, leading up to whatever appeals or trial that he's going to have.
Well,
but that's me.
Well, it may. I don't know enough about what they're going to do. I know that Trump is, what's the word I'm looking for here?
A megalomaniac?
Well, that too. But he's very
revengeful.
No. He doesn't stop.
Relentless.
Relentless. That's the word I'm looking for in this type of stuff. So I was curious. I went here. By the way, I tried to find legal experts who were arguing in favor of this. I found one guy make a comment, but there's no real large write-ups in defense of this. At least there wasn't at the time that I, did my thing. This morning, Mike Davis, the founder of the Article 3 Project, argued the third assassination attempt against President Trump on Saturday made this crystal clear. The Justice Department must prosecute those who threaten to assassinate the president. Okay, first of all, he didn't threaten to assassinate the president. Secondly, somebody else's actions, a year later, have no bearing on what Comey did. But this is interesting to me. So I wish I could post this. I wish I knew how. Jack Posobiec posted on Twitter, and there's a lot of comments about this on 1/29/22 at 11:23 p.m. 8646. So are we going to see indictments coming of Jack Posobiec? Because they're saying you can't threaten the president of the United States. Matt Gaetz once said, we've now 86th McCarthy, McDaniel, McConnell. Was he talking about murdering these people? I don't think so. But according to these guys, I guess he is. President Trump, by the way, has expressed pleasure about Robert Mueller's death, made light of the murders of Rob Reiner and his wife, and made light of a hammer attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband. I looked into, they sold 8646 stuff on Amazon. So Donald Trump has pressured his Justice Department to probe into Hillary Clinton and the email server stuff, which I think that she probably should have been indicted for. Then the Durham probe. Andrew McCabe is another enemy of Trump. James Comey, he previously had them go after. He wanted Attorney General Sessions to investigate and prosecute Hillary Clinton. He wanted he told his White House counsel to go after Clinton and Comey. This is in the first term. Public tweets, rallies. He demanded, investigations into Spygate, into going after Clinton, Comey, McCabe, and others. In his current term in office, he tried to prosecute Comey before, tried to prosecute Letitia James. John Bolton is being prosecuted. In September 2025, he posted to Pam Bondi, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell. His public calls targeted Comey, Jack Smith. So, some of those might be legitimate, but when you are going after that many of your political enemies in a relentless fashion, this is not good. This is a very bad thing. But they'll keep defending him. And I don't know how you can ever get sort of around that.
Michael, this is a scary precedent being set. I mean, it's not like it's the first time the government is violating free speech, but to do it so openly and brazenly, and to use the Department of Justice in so naked a power grab against political enemies is I think unprecedented. As far as I know, some historians out there can question me on that. But it seems like to me we are heading down a road now that is so obviously in disregard of the Constitution and individual rights. And this is a road that I don't think Americans should become inured to. I don't think they should start getting used to this, because this is a whole new threshold of bad.
So you know how you've told people you'll choke them?
Yes.
Okay, if you don't go out and get a better mic, I'm going to choke you. Because you're a billionaire. There's no reason.
I just didn't pack it with me to come to Europe.
Well, then you could buy another one. You're a billionaire. You're out there making hundreds of $1,000s a minute.
Out there for folks, billionaires. Everybody out there wants to eat for lunch. I am not a billionaire.
Okay, he's a very successful Hollywood type. He can afford a better microphone because you're going no good. But anyways, what I was thinking about though this morning is, as bad as Trump is, and as bad as the current MAGA movement is, I was thinking about the Democrats, and we've had this organization put out a commercial in 2011 about how Paul Ryan wanted to push grandma off a cliff. Joe Biden gave a speech where he told the audience that Romney and Ryan wanted to put them back, black audience, what they want to put you back in chains. I Googled examples of Joe Biden and Barack Obama engaging in, race baiting type of rhetoric. And much of it had to do, they got into a lot of the recent stuff that they did against Trump. And of course, Trump and, his folks don't help often. But the 2010 midterm rhetoric, Obama suggested Republicans were trying to discourage minority turnout, stating they're trying to discourage our folks from coming out and voting, in some cases trying to overrule the elections. Obama reportedly told supporters that racial bias played a role in the political opposition from the Tea Party. He said the officers who arrested Henry Gates acted stupidly. That was before Obama even knew anything about it. He didn't know the entire context. I also looked up examples of other Democratic politicians. Representative John Lewis has done it. Charles Rangel accused the Tea Party movement. He says it's the same group that were fighting in the South, referring to the historic opposition to civil rights. Howard Dean referred to Republican dog whistles. Senator Harry Reid talked about light-skinned and lacking Negro dialect. Representative Anthony Weiner of his fame.
Of Weiner fame.
Weiner fame. He has charged them, Republicans, of ignoring diverse urban constituents. Texas Democrats have accused Republicans of racism. So, Democrats are not innocent in this whole thing, this whole political escalation that we've had. They're accusing people of racism at every turn. So, in other words, the what's the word I'm looking for? The options, the standard options that people have for president have not been good, which, of course, is the need for what, Mark?
A new political party, folks, which you have access to right here, the American Capitalist Party. Go to americancapitalistparty.org and become a member of the American Capitalist Party. We're spreading out through the nation as we speak. We're running people in one state right now, Alabama. So get on board, man. Building a party, a political party in this day and age is a very difficult prospect because liberty, self-responsibility, individual rights are very unpopular concepts right now. It's collectivism that everybody seems to want to push down everybody's throat. So we have a lot of work to do to help educate the population out there. And the way you can educate yourself, go onto our website, check out the policies, and see if you like them, become a member, donate, and be a part of the change. Hey, Michael, somebody asked about 13 Reasons Why.
Okay, what did they ask?
Well, it was, Mark, I saw you in 13 Reasons Why. Can you talk about how you got into the project? The show didn't really delve into why kids abuse each other. What do you think? I'd like to answer that question, but we can get on to Trump's megalomania if you want to talk about that, since that's second or third on the list here. I think it's important.
No, Mark. Go ahead and answer the question.
So my internet seems to be going in and out. Let me know if you're noticing it on your end. Yeah. So I actually took this job weeks after my best friend committed suicide. And when I got the audition, I read the book and decided that I thought this was a conversation people needed to have. I thought the material was very cutting edge, and I was hoping it would take the stigma off mental illness and depression, and help people who were going through very, very serious suicidal ideation to open up to people they love and to get the help that they need. As far as I'm concerned, I think the show did that. I think it started the conversation in our culture that we weren't really having before. I am convinced that had my friend actually seen this show, he would not have done what he did. The girl who acted the death, the suicide, did it so well, Michael, that had I been considering suicide, I think it would have made me afraid, because what I saw in her was regret and the irreversibility of what she had done, the absoluteness of where she was going and knew she was headed. And I think that would have been an important thing for my friend to have seen before he decided to take his own life. So my reasons were personal. I just wanted to, I wanted to, I don't know, heal myself a little bit after the death of a guy I talked to 4 times a day. I mean, I talked to him 4 times a day for years, and had talked him out of suicide a number of times. It was the one time that he seemed to be progressing and moving out of his hole that he decided to kill himself. Oh, well, thank you, Lee. Mark, you've helped me so much. Oh, thank you so much, Lee. Um, and I hope you feel better too, because I sent you a little cameo. Anyway, that's my take on that, on 13 Reasons Why. I think everybody should check it out. Although they took the two most impactful scenes out of it, Michael, because the psychiatric community wouldn't endorse the project without the two scenes taken out.
Awesome. Are you on your laptop, Mark?
I am.
Can you switch to your phone?
Why? What's going on?
It's in, out, in, out, in, out. And I'm afraid the audience is going to get what's known in the business as radio fatigue. And I don't want that to happen.
Let me try. Peace.
Okay. All right. So hopefully Mark will be back in a minute. When you heard him get real loud, I was experimenting. I took off the echo reducer. But that it would have been too much pressing the button off, on, off, on, off, on. So there's also this situation where I don't know how much you guys know about this, but Jimmy Kimmel made a joke about how Melania Trump is an expected widow. Katie Ellis, new YouTube member, because we have memberships now on YouTube. Katie, yes, awesome. So he had said that Melania is an expectant widow or something like that, and it didn't really catch much attention. I guess it was a relation to how old the Donald is. But after the assassination attempt, people are, of course, taking advantage in order to pressure now to cancel Jimmy Kimmel once again. I thought that the right were against cancel culture. No, they're not. It's just they don't want to be canceled for the bad things they do. I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Kimmel. I don't particularly like him. I don't watch the show, and they don't have to. But I'm also not out there recommending that Jimmy Kimmel get fired, which a lot of the MAGA folks are. Mark, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome sauce. Now I got to turn down your mic volume a little bit, but that's okay. All right.
Well, I hope people heard the 13 Reasons Why spiel.
I think they did, but I think they can hear you much, much better now. That's great. It's a Hard Rock Cafe situation. Anyway, since there's been a lot of these calls for the firing. Oh, look at this. GL Wordsmith, a new member to the YouTube channel. Awesome. Awesome. The Rational Alternative is the name of our channel. And we have multiple shows on our channel. So anyways, the FCC has ordered Disney. Of course, Disney's the owner of ABC. That's where Jimmy Kimmel, his show is on. They ordered Disney to file early license renewals for its 8 owned and operated ABC stations in major markets, citing an ongoing probe into the company's DEI programs. This doesn't sound like a coincidence to me, especially not when we look at, some of the other things that the Trumpster and the MAGA folks have been up to. But Mark, what do you think?
I think it's none of the government's frickin' business what kind of hiring policies a private corporation has. If they want to use the unfortunate and I think misguided metric of DEI to hire people, that's their own damn business. They're going to feel the consequences if they hire people who are not competent to do their jobs. The government should only reserve investigation of its hiring processes for itself. This is just a way of persecuting ABC and putting them through the ringer and using the FCC as a political cudgel to beat the crap out of
a media platform that Trump considers to be unfair and biased against him. And this is scary, Michael. This is freaking scary. I mean, the FCC was originally created to batter Roosevelt's opponents of the New Deal, and he used licensing in the FCC to intimidate his political opponents and spread the New Deal across the country. What does that say? Thank you so much.
That's Gary Menard,
Thank you,
$1.99.
Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. And to spread fear through the country and to enforce his New Deal around the country. But Michael, this is a whole other thing. This is a president who feels personally attacked by entertainers and is trying to silence entertainers for their personal opinions. This is even more barbaric and blunt a tool than Roosevelt used.
Right. Okay. So, yes, Mark does love to remind everyone this was a progressive innovation. Also, Mark, we have a new thing now. You know how you say, I'm an actor? Well, now, or as an actor, now Persephone has taken to as a business owner. I'm a business owner. So somebody said, is that now the equivalent of Mark's I'm an actor? Seems so. Okay. So these are some of the things that the beacon of free speech, the Donald, has done in his second term here. Restrictions on press access and news gathering. In February 2025, the White House barred Associated Press journalists from the Oval Office, Air Force One, and smaller presidential events because the AP refused to adopt the administration's renaming of the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. We've also had FCC regulatory pressure on broadcasters over content. They previously, of course, tried to get Jimmy Kimmel fired because of the Charlie Kirk comments. They wanted government encouragement of private retaliation in firings post-Kirk assassination. They've pressured tech companies to suppress apps and online speech. They've targeted law firms, public media, and federal communications. Trump himself has filed lawsuits against media outlets, and the
Which
FBI,
they have settled, Michael, for millions of dollars.
Yes. And there's other probes and access limits. The FBI seized devices from a Washington Post reporter. Journalists covering ICE protests faced arrest, foreign students, and, a bunch of other things that are going on. But the point is free speech is vital. Even when other freedoms are being taken away, if we have the freedom of speech, we can voice our outrage. We can voice our arguments. We can talk to one another. We can make public, denunciations of the people that are suppressing free speech. But if once free speech is eroded, and, you don't have to pass a law that says no more free speech. The jawboning, the threatening, the lawsuits has a dampening effect on free speech because then other people are afraid to speak up, right? We have a First Amendment to the United States Constitution, but even beyond the First Amendment, free speech is an individual right. What say you, Mr. Pellegrino?
Look, I mean, free speech is a right for a reason, Michael, because I think the founders understood, even if they didn't explicitly say so, that your mind and your conscience were the thing that guided and directed you, and you needed a clear connection between your mind and reality. Information that we get from the media is a vital component of that clarity, Michael, and you need as much access it to as possible, unfettered, so that you, as a citizen and as a human being, can make the best choices possible in your life. So, to me, the fact that the government is trying to impede the flow of information because it's not favorable to it is in essence telling you your mind, your conscience, your thoughts are not free, and we're going to stop them if they don't tend in the direction that we would like them to. So to me, this is an impediment or a restraint on the mind of the citizens. It's evil, Michael. It's evil. And it's scary. I remember, back in the 90s when Peikoff was making lots of political statements, some of which, of course, we agree with, some of which we didn't agree with. One time I remember him being asked, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, when is the appropriate time to rebel? Since tyranny seems to be this slow creeping monster that's like an anaconda, just choking us from the feet up. When is the proper time that you finally slough off this thing and rebel? And his response was, when there's no more freedom of speech. Have we reached that?
No, I don't think we have, but it's getting scary. How do I put this? The suppression of free speech, the demonization of political opponents that comes from both sides of the aisle. Of course, now there's going to be a MAGA uproar. Yeah, but only one side shooting. And yeah, okay, that's fine. Not that it's fine that only one side shooting. It's just that's fine for an objection, but it also just ignores a monumental amount of things that Donald Trump has said about his political opponents, including calling for violence against them. So it's a scary time, and let me just say the mental well-being, and I don't mean in terms of dementia. I'm talking about the personality of our president. He's clearly, to me, a narcissist. Narcissistic personality disorder, textbook case. And we have now MAGA passports. The State Department plans to release a limited number of passports featuring President Trump's image on the inside cover to commemorate the 250th anniversary of American independence. So we're going to put on the cover a guy who infringes free speech, prosecutes his political enemies, goes to war without constitutional authority. And this is the guy that we're going to use to celebrate
and calls
independence.
himself the greatest president of all time. Michael, putting himself ahead of Washington, ahead of Madison, ahead of Jefferson, men who forgot more about governance, philosophy, and ethics in 1 minute of their life than this guy has ever been acquainted with.
So, again, I do this. I looked up examples of Donald wanting to name things after himself. So he wanted to name Washington Dulles International Airport and New York's Penn Station after himself. The Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. The U.S. Institute of Peace was renamed the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. The U.S. Mint developed a $1 coin featuring Trump's face. We also have Trump cards or gold cards for immigration initiatives. He proposed naming a new class of Navy battleships the Trump class and has used the naming of a road, President Donald J. Trump Boulevard near Mar-a-Lago. He also wants to rename Penn Station and Dulles Airport. I think I already mentioned the Dulles.
You said that already.
Up top and the Penn Station, but they listed it twice here. This is a guy that's not well. He should not be the leader of a country. And why people don't see that, I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe it's because as a criminal, as somebody surrounded by criminals my whole life, I recognize it very quickly. I just know that this guy is not fit to be president. And how many people that formerly worked for him, people that he appointed, said he's not fit to be president? It's not like it's just my view from a distance, seeing him on television. It's people that know him personally that have worked for him. Now, he said he was going to pick the best. But these people that he picked said, well, not so much. What's your thoughts, Mark?
Well, yeah, the people that he picked probably initially in his first administration were the best, some of them recommended by the Federalist Society, and those people were promptly fired, or quit because they couldn't stand the guy. So he's decided to surround himself this second administration with sycophants and lackeys and people who will give him what he wants. So, Michael, it's frightening when you have somebody who's a megalomaniac, a malignant narcissist, who has no capacity to introspect or understand necessarily the gravity of his actions, who also does not have a barometer, some kind of barometer with next to him or in the administration who can stop him when he's going over the edge. And there's nobody in the administration that will do that right now.
Right. And I remember people arguing he didn't do all these terrible things in his first term, but they neglected to say all the people that refused him: Jeff Sessions, Bill Barr, Jim Comey, for instance. Never mind the people that in the back channels who were preventing him. There was I forget who it was now, a chief of staff or somebody who refused to convey some message that he wanted to convey. It wasn't a matter that he didn't want to do things. It was a matter of there being obstacles. And of course, all such obstacles are subsequently, labeled traitors or the deep state or whatever. But this time around, he's surrounded by people who will not criticize him, who all they'll do is kiss his ass. How many Republicans since this assassination attempt are now out there saying, we got to have this ballroom? The ballroom is so necessary. We need the ballroom. It's pathetic. It's gross. I don't know how these men can live with themselves. I know I couldn't, but yet they do. We are in bad shape, and there's no viable opposition. It's not like there's some Democrat coming down the pike who's going to be a great candidate. So I'm really pessimistic. I got to be honest, and I'm not a pessimistic person by personality. It's not who I am. I'm optimistic about my own life. I'm optimistic about this show, about what I can do. But look, when the people of this country are electing people like Donald Trump or like Barack Obama and Joe Biden, when we talked about the things they did and said earlier, and that's our options, in this go around, Kamala Harris and Trump, not good, man. Not good.
No, it's frightening. Yeah, Trump has almost single-handedly brought down the discourse, the political discourse from, I guess it was semi-sophisticated a few decades ago, and certainly less so over the last 12 years, but to a kindergarten level, Michael. I mean, politics has been dumbed down to the point where, elementary school students can pretty much grasp what these politicians are saying. They're so unprincipled, and they just repeat bromides and cliches that are easy to grasp for people and not very intellectually deep. But Trump has even lowered the bar further from there to schoolyard taunts. And it's shameful and awful. And what exists on the left, Michael, the good politicians that are on the left are unfortunately horrible philosophically and ethically. They're great campaigners. They can stump well. They're visually they know how to present ideas. They're far more articulate. I think 5-year-olds are far more articulate than our president. But still, these people are more articulate, not just comparatively, but simply on their own. They're just infected by even more horrible ideas than this guy, if you can imagine.
And what I fear is if they win the midterms, they're just going to impeach Trump. And it's not that I don't think it warrants impeachment. I just think it's a pointless endeavor. You're not going to get the conviction in the Senate. That's not going to happen. And all you're going to do is galvanize your political opponents who are going to say you're weaponizing the impeachment process, yada, yada. You're doing the same thing again. That's not going to help anything. But I really think that they're going to do it. That's my, I think some of them actually said it. Phil with the 10 pounds. Thank you so much, Phil. He says, this is in addition to my contributions to the American Capitalist Party. Well done, chaps. And
thank you,
keep
sir.
It up. He said chaps, and it reminded me when I was watching the movie I was telling you about earlier, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. One of the things they called each other, and I think I want to start implementing this into my vocabulary, is bub.
Bub.
Hey, bub. Yeah, bub. I think bub has been unnecessarily and unjustifiably taken out of our discourse. So I think maybe if you get a little upset with somebody on the internet, you say, look here, bub. I really think that would be a good addition. I think I'm going to implement it. I recommend everybody else do as well.
I'm trying to remember the name of the movie with, I think it had Cary Grant. And it was about the men who flew the postal planes in the Yucatan, or like in some part of Mexico, some untamed wild part of Mexico. I can't remember the name of it. If somebody can remember the name of that movie, it was fantastic, Michael. It would really inspire you. It was done in the 40s, somewhere in there. A great title. It's something that I think would entertain you for a couple hours. Anyway, that just came up in my mind. Speaking of John Ford, who has done great movies, by the way. Maybe not that one, but he's done some great movies.
No problem, bub. Megan says cod swallop. Megan, you mentioned something about doing a show about the effect of public education on something. I don't remember exactly what you said. Can you email me and tell me what it was you were talking about? Because I want to do it on one of our weekend shows, and maybe we'll have you on to discuss it with us. Nicole Hingle says the movie is North by Northwest. That's where he's running underneath the plane.
No,
right?
that's the movie that I'm talking about. No, that's a Hitchcock movie, and it's not the movie I'm talking about. This is there is a plane chasing sequence in it that's very thrilling and very famous, but it's not about the postal men who delivered the post in Mexico in wild, untamed times with like biplanes, through storms and havoc. I mean, they really faced death every single day, and won most of the time. So it's a pretty great show. Try to find it, Nicole, if you can.
So, Mark, you've been in Europe, Paris, you went over to Portugal, and while you've been over there, frequenting the salons and the ballrooms and the fine restaurants and everything. I'm just curious if you've heard anybody talking about the United States and in particular the war in Iran. Like, have you been able to get any sense of the sentiment over there in these countries?
The sentiment, generally speaking, over here is becoming more and more hostile to Trump. I don't think hostile to Americans or America, but to Trump. I think many folks make that distinction. But in Europe, Michael, you're going to find an undercurrent of anti-Americanism pretty much throughout, or resentment for America and what it represents throughout Europe. But predominantly, I'd say man in the street is becoming more and more what's the word I'm looking for? Now I'm having issues with
disillusioned
by Trump.
I helped out. Have you been following the war in Iran or the events in Iran at all?
No, I've been outside the loop. Tell me what's going on.
Well, nothing really. Only angels have wings, Nicole said.
Yes. Only angels have wings. Watch that movie and try not to be inspired, man.
I don't want to try not to be inspired. I'd rather be inspired.
No. So, if you try, it's like acting. If you try not to cry, you'll cry. If you try not to be inspired, you're going to be inspired whether you want to or not.
How do you weave acting into that?
It's just skill, man. It's just skill.
Well, I'm an actor. It's like what I do when I'm out. You ever watch Supernatural? That's like my line.
Thank you, Nicole Hingle, who probably gave you that information, right?
She did. Yeah, that's a line I have when I'm out and I meet new people. Hey, you ever watch Supernatural? Because I do a show with that guy. He shows up less and less lately, but he's still there. But we talked about this a little bit yesterday. The ceasefire is still on. Iran is not interested in Trump's deal. Trump keeps making threats. I don't know nobody really knows what's going to happen over there. It just seems like a disaster to me. Gas prices are through the roof over here, and I'm not a fan of that. So,
of course, well, there's no resolution on Trump's part to actually solve this problem, because it would involve regime change and a larger commitment of military force than he's willing to commit himself to now, especially with midterms coming up, Michael. Because what's more important to Trump than the lives of the Iranian people or even gas prices for the American citizen is winning the midterms, because I think his ego is going to be tied up in how those midterms go. And of course, malignant narcissist that he is, should he lose those midterms, and it's looking increasingly likely that he will, of course it's going to be rigged, it's going to be fixed, it's going to be because of the fake news media that never ever gave him a chance, Michael. And that's his true interest right now. So he's in what we feared would happen, a bit of a quagmire. And Iran is just using this process to gain credibility and to gain their street cred, like they do with other terrorists. And to me, this is more emboldening to terrorists. It's not going to intimidate them. They see that America will only go so far, and they've seen this for decades upon decades upon decades. If anybody thought Trump was going to change that narrative, I hope you're disillusioned now. He certainly isn't.
So, my two main objections to the war, primarily it was the Constitution. It's unconstitutional. But then when people would ask me, okay, if they got constitutional approval, would you be for it? My next concern was the man at the helm, Donald Trump. And like you just said, nothing has happened since the start of this war that would alter my opinion in any way, shape, or form with my concerns with this guy. Lack of objectives, erratic claims it's already over, it's done, empty threats. Things can change. I'm not, it's not over. But up until now, nothing that has happened has gone to show me that I was mistaken in my initial assessment.
Yeah, Michael, I started with a little bit more hopefulness than you. I started off sort of in the camp of a lot of objectivists out there who inclined towards this conflict because of Iran being a bad actor for several decades, and hoped that the man at the helm was a bully enough to carry it through, had enough sensibility and enough, sense of political self-preservation that he would carry it through to the end. So there was an aspect of hopefulness on my, also from the Iranian diaspora, the Persians abroad. I thought the support for an armed conflict and a liberation movement was far greater than it actually turned out to be. I have been completely disillusioned by that. And it, of course, started with me embracing what I think is the right principled perspective that this is an unconstitutional war, and the reality that the man helming the war has no capacity to act according to principle and hasn't been able to steer a straight course through any of his administrations, let alone the current one.
Yeah, that's, I think, pretty much sums it up. So, Mark, is this the only day you're going to be with us this week?
Yes, tomorrow I teach class. I will try to pop on, though, if I can get back in time, but I teach class until 5. And, it's the metro system here in Paris, so it takes, forever to get, from one place to another. It's not the convenient thing that everybody necessarily thinks it is, but even driving a car is worse. I think the best bet is probably to get on what they call a trontinet, a scooter, electronic scooter, and just scooch through the city between traffic and drop it off somewhere. That might be the best bet. But I'm going to have my wife and her dog in tow, so I sit with them on the metro to keep them safe from ne'er-do-wells. So I'll try to make it on board if I get out in time. And Friday, I'm traveling to Austria, and I'll be in Austria until very early Monday morning, where I will come back at 6 in the morning and then go straight from the airport to teach class until 5 in the afternoon.
Right. When are you back as a regular? That's what the people want to know.
I will be, well, as a regular, not until June 9th. But up until that point, I will be probably 2 or 3 times a week. I'm just going to.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's somewhat regular.
Yeah, I will be slamming in there 2 or 3 times a week. Michael, I'm also going to try to get Saturdays going again for our self-made soul. So get that book, because I want to read these chapters out aloud to people, and I wanted to have long discussions about it because I think it's a great book.
Whoa, look at this.
Yeah, Saturdays I teach for now, but when what is that? Thank you very much for 20 pounds.
I was musing. This is from Phil. Phil is awesome. He
Phil,
says, I was musing this morning. Trump is leader of the free world. I don't know what that says. It's a mistake. I think it's hosting our head of state, aka the bat-eared Dauphine, who likes to speak to cabbages and is married to one. WTF?
Yeah, man. That sort of went over my head, but I can see a confederacy of dunces in the making.
How about Justin as an irregular? Yes, he'll be here as an irregular all along, Gary. So we asked a question yesterday. Persephone asked, "What is your favorite art form?" Favorite art form. This is from. Yes, Mark will be slamming in there. I just got a text about that. Great.
Is that from Persephone?
I'm not telling you who it's from. So,
Okay.
The favorite art form from Zardoz CYS is movies, and he says his favorite quote, "If it's to be, it's up to me." He thinks it was from Think and Grow Rich. I don't know. It was definitely from the title of a Robert Schuller book. Jenna
Robert
Klein-
Schuller, the preacher?
Yeah. Jenna Kleem says she likes art made of nature items. Ironheart doesn't know anything about art, but he likes architecture. Akira Felix likes music. And Robert Naser likes music as well. All right, Mark, it's capitalist thought of the day time.
Well, folks, I hope everybody is getting fed up with the political establishment. All you see out there are iterations of collectivism. Are you hungry for individualism? Well, that's what a capitalist society is, a society that respects and protects the individual. Individual's right to property and the individual's right to their own life. That's what capitalism is. Forget the Marxist definition of it. Forget what you hear out there on the internet. All capitalism really is a system of complete and total freedom of exchange and of production, right? Where the government's sole purpose is to protect you so that you can live, work, produce, and exchange freely with other consenting adults. What a beautiful life that is. Now, success isn't guaranteed in a capitalist society. It's not guaranteed anywhere, despite what the utopian socialists try to tell you. It's not guaranteed, but the possibility that you can achieve your potential is exponentially higher than in one where elitists have control over your life. So if you want your life back, folks out there, please go to AmericanCapitalistParty.org, read the platform, read the policies, join up, and put a vote in there for your sovereignty. Let's return to human sovereignty, Michael. What say you?
I say you are correct, and I ask that everybody please like, share, and subscribe to the show, first of all. Also, the question is, what non-political things can we do to make our country better? I'm looking for suggestions. What can we do to make the country better that don't involve politics? And please check out Everyday Ethics today, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm on my own. I need help with your questions, your comments. They will be great. All right, Mark, take us out.
Well, folks, you got 23 hours to check your premises, and then we will see you here tomorrow. I'm going to try to come late. I will be teaching aspiring actors the crap of acting. Until then, please remember to check your premises. Peace.